know normally as a manager, and obviously two players there, Carvalho and Ferreira from Porto. So
who had just won the Champions League.
And he knew them. You know, he knew them inside out. So the rest of them, Drogba was obviously the main man. He wanted to build his side around it. But he obviously had some good foundations already at the football club. You know, some the lads who have come through and played a lot of games. You know, Ida Johnson was there, John Terry, Frank Lampard, you know, so they already had a good base, but this guy was the icing on the cake. I mean, it was just incredible. And he took everyone by surprise. I talked earlier about being caught by surprise, and certainly Didier, his power and his pace and his game intelligence, and Iron Robin of his trickery and left foot, and you know, he had great balance. You know, I just think that he put together an amazing side for a Jose Mourinho style.
Yeah.
You know, they had the solid base. We already talked about Petr Cech, the goalkeeper, but they let the forward players just go and win it for them. They got the ball forward, they got it wide, created chances, and Didier just created goals on his own.
I get the feeling when you look at that Chelsea team and you look at the signings that he made, I reckon if you went and looked at European football at the time, I bet there were so many better players to the naked eye than what that list would show us. But Jose recognised that he didn't need the best player. He got Iron Robin in, and he realised the position and the skill set he would bring on top of the Lampards and the Terrys and the Petr Cechs and the Didier Drogba signing. So he put all the pieces exactly for what a team needs, not just the sexy signings.
Yeah,
for his team, Don.
For his team.
For his style.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, look, in comes Jose Mourinho. He brings in that collection of players, not familiar names to many football supporters at the time. He leads Chelsea to their first league title in 50 years. But in the process, conceding, as we mentioned a little earlier in the show, just 15 league goals as well.
Yeah, that experience. William Gallas, you know, playing at centre-back there. Carvalho was there. You know, guys who you know, you don't want it. You can't get away from if you're a centre forward. You can't get away from these guys, and they would defend high up the field. They would take all your team forward, and like I say, get it forward to Didier Drogba. You had Frank Lampard bursting off him from midfield areas. You had Iron Robin on the wide side, cutting in on his left foot, scoring tremendous goals. I mean, he had the perfect balance for a Jose Mourinho side. Very pragmatic, sat in and counter-attacked like you wouldn't believe. Brilliant side.
The next transfer window we're going to look at 2015, 2016. And it was, of course, the incredible realisation of quite a fairy tale. 5,000-1 outsiders, Leicester City, picked up their first title in their 132-year history.
Wow.
Look at these names. Okazaki, Kante. Inler perhaps was the least of those that made an impact, but Huth and Fuchs, they all came together, and just like you said, Don, more than the sum of the parts, really.
Yeah, when you look at that list there, I mean, very, very dependable players. Christian Fuchs had a wonderful career. Fantastic player, could play in different positions. Robert Huth, very steadfast, very, not versatile, but very steadfast in the way he played. Quite simplistic. You know, big, strong centre-back where you couldn't beat him in the air. So that's a good foundation for Leicester to have, where you've got a dominant centre-back. And then we talked about Nkante and Okazaki. So, again, a manager and a club not having the most money to spend, but being very astute, I think, at the players that they brought in.
I think he was known as the Tinker Man, wasn't he?
Before
he goes to Leicester. And when he's there, he doesn't need to change much because they kept it very, very simple. Whereas
what helped him, though, of course, they ended the previous season on a high, did they not? They won 8 of the last 12 games under Nigel Pearson. So he knew there was a framework there to work with.
But it takes good management not to change it, not to think that you need to stamp your authority on it and change it. He didn't need to change it. He played them to their strengths. I think Nigel did it back end of the season. I think he's gone in there, Ranieri, and decided that this is the best for this squad. We need to play to Jamie Vardy. Everyone wants to squeeze up the field. All that space behind, we get it forward early. We've got N'Golo Kante who just breaks the game up. We've got Wes Morgan. We've got Fuchs. We've got Robert Huth.
Riyad Mahrez.
Mahrez, who we've seen what he's turned out to be, is an absolute phenomenal player on the right-hand side. So they had the ingredients.
I think we all would have sat here in that title-winning season going, they won't win the league. No. They won't win the league. This was the game, I think. This was a midweek game, I think, against Tottenham.
It was.
And that was the game where we thought, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And they weren't just beating, the Watfords and the Tottenhams. They were destroying Man City.
3-1 away.
They were destroying Liverpool's. Yeah. Jamie Vardy scored one of the best goals, I think, with his right foot. I can picture it out the right wing. And
over Mignolet.
Yeah, dipping, sort of rasping 35, 40-yard volley, and they were putting everyone away. No one can handle that style.
But they were starting on the back foot with Leicester when they went into that transfer window because they'd lost Esteban Cambiasso, right? And they brought in some fella nobody had heard of, N'Golo Kante. And then in comes Robert Huth, who, you know, was literally just a £3 million pickup from Stoke City. And who would have thought him and Wes Morgan would come together and form such an incredible
be the bedrock of
of a title-winning season?
Two formidable centre-backs. So you base it round not necessarily the most skillful players, but the size and the strength and the presence that they've got. As a centre-forward, you're thinking, how am I going to get the best out of these two? I can't beat these two in the air. So I might have to be a little bit clever. And also the perfect storm came from having the pace of Jamie Vardy, where Leicester played on the edge of their own 18-yard box. So you couldn't run in behind. You had no space to run in. So everything and the signings were just absolutely perfect for them.
All their assists come from Casper. He was a great kicker of the ball.
He was, yeah.
I mean, he just dribbled it out of the box. As if they allowed him to come, he just dropped it on top. They worked from there. Drinkwater and Kante just got him behind
Helped
it. They
it on.
the ball wide.
Helped it on.
Fantastic.
Can we just also mention Shinji Okazaki, £7 million from Mainz, who was very happy to play second fiddle to Vardy.
That's what you need.
But also
Effective.
was incessant with his press.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, if he's playing in the modern game, it was only a few years ago, but you could imagine him now playing in, say, like a Brighton side, where they're pressing, or a Man City side, or a top side that are closing down. And he had energy to burn, didn't he? Played in a variety of positions. And Tim will tell you better than I will, from the coaching point of view, is you need those guys where if he's not playing, if you have to drop him, if you have to leave him out, they're still going to be on board. And I got that impression with him.
Absolutely. It's a lot easier to keep them happy when your team's winning every week. Because when they knock on the door and say, Gaffer, I want to play, you just point to the result. You know, you can't change your winning side, but when you're needed, you come off the bench with the right attitude. Okazaki had that in bundles. You know, come on, he worked hard out of possession, and he scored, as we saw there, some important goals at the right time.
Okay, let's round off today by putting you both on the spot. We featured 8 individuals of impact signings, but who, if one of them has to get your vote?
I know mine. I know mine straight away, but it hurts me to say it. Big Eric Cantona for me. He was just incredible, the way he changed their fortunes, the way he helped develop their younger players at the detriment of my Blackburn side, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We managed to scrape over the line just once.
You find that hard to let go, don't you?
Yeah, I really do.
Can we get him some therapy? I think we get him a little bit.
We'll dim the lights, we'll have him lying down and have a therapy session.
Do you know what? I concur, because it was the era that I played in. And as I said before, like, you look at the number 10s and the Janinios and the Zolas and all these diminutive players, and then you get Eric Cantona with the collars up, who was arrogant, who had loads of charisma and ability and fancied taking any game by the scruff of the neck. And he was just... It's the reason why Fergie bought him. He was a game changer.
And hats off to Sir Alex Ferguson. Managers normally don't want anyone with sort of charisma and a personality and possible trouble that Cantona could bring. But he was willing to sacrifice all of that for what he would give him.
And he had to back him through the bad times.
Yeah.
Sir Alex, he had to back
That's true,
Cantona.
he did. And actually, that unpredictability is what we liked about Eric Cantona, isn't it?
That made him.
But everyone.
That's what he was.
But everyone.
Yeah.
Don't want robots.
Yeah. What is predictable is the end of this show, I'm afraid. We've run out of time. We could have continued talking about
Get
this.
Tim some help, shall we?
We'll start his therapy session now. Just let go of Eric Cantona and Blackburn. At least you won it one. You know what I mean? That's what happened. That's it from us. Tim, Don, thanks very much for your company. Hope you've enjoyed watching the last hour. We'll be back soon, of course, for another Premier League.